Welcome to Tropical Storm Day in North Carolina. I don't even know what the date is. I woke up in Wilmington. I was here last night doing a fundraiser for Pause for People. And I got up this morning, made my coffee, and then I checked the news, which I always do, and saw the budget for North Carolina. So if you might say, well, I'm not from North Carolina. If you have children, if you have grandchildren, if you know anything about public schools, I think this will be interesting to you. The voucher program has been approved in North Carolina, so it'll go to the Senate this morning. The House, Democrats really fought it yesterday and lost because there's a supermajority of Republicans in the House and Senate. And I would say to anybody that doesn't, if you don't understand how that all works, it's funny to me, or not funny, let's just be honest, it's annoying. There's so many people that feel like they have these big opinions, but they can't even tell you how politics work. And this summer, I made my oldest son went to Boys State in North Carolina, and it's sponsored by the American Legion. And it was such a good program. And he really got an idea better than I never knew at that age either, how the whole thing works. They had to write a bill and then try to get it passed, and learn how to listen to people from different backgrounds, and it's really good. So I just pulled out my calculator to see how much money I'm going to get over the next few years per child. So right now I have 4 children, and I have 2 children in private school and 2 children in public school. But let me go back. So the voucher program, if you don't know what vouchers are, let's start. Vouchers were created about 10 years ago, and the purpose, I would say, was good. The purpose was to help low-income children in failing schools get the hell out of there, right? So it passed, and I think most people are okay with that. My biggest problem even then with vouchers in North Carolina, again, has the lowest requirements of who gets a voucher. So I don't even know how to compare that. Just think about all the states, and we have the lowest requirements. So in North Carolina, to get a voucher, what you do is you go online. It took me about an hour, 10 minutes, and you sign yourself up as a private school. And then you have to show that you graduated from high school or you have a GED. And then that's it. Whee! You're a private school. You can, and not only, and this is, a lot of people don't hear about this, but I do. You can have a private school and call it No Gays Allowed. No Autism Allowed. That can be the name of your private school in North Carolina. You can set it up. In the state of North Carolina, will give you millions of dollars. It's true. I think the school, so you have some schools getting over $2 million a year. None of them are called No Autism Allowed. But I think I'm going to change the name of my school to that and then open it up. And then maybe I could pay myself to have Amos. How is this legal? Right? If it weren't ridiculous, it would be funny. And sometimes I'm like the type of person that laughs at funerals, which I know is terrible, but like a nervous laughter. This is something like the Saturday Night Live skit people should be writing. So go with me here. In North Carolina, to get a voucher, you don't have to have one licensed teacher. You do not have to have curriculum, no accountability. Kathy, that's the word I was looking for. No licensed teacher. I mean, I have a PhD, so already I'm ahead. No no curriculum, no testing, and no children that you don't want. I mean, I wish parenthood was like this. We're talking about vouchers this morning, Hannah. Vouchers. It's the same in Iowa. Well, it can't be the same in Iowa, Julie, because North Carolina is the lowest of the low. So Iowa must do something. Original intentions were good, needs accountability. I would agree, Carol, but let's look at the intentions created for low-income families. So what we know about vouchers, who takes advantage of them, it's very interesting. We have 20% black, 10% mixed, and 70% white so far. Now, what happened yesterday is that there will be no income requirement anymore. So I've like always considered myself a Republican. I guess I'm not anymore. I guess it's official. I used to be a Republican because I'm fiscally conservative. And I would think most people, well, I'm fiscally conservative. I was raised by somebody who was like, don't make me pay more taxes, and I really feel like that. This is so counterproductive because you are taking a political party who claims to be fiscally conservative and they are plopping $500 million a year on private schools with no accountability. If that's not the biggest bunch of liberal malarkey I've ever heard in my life, I don't know what is. Why do private schools need funding from the General Assembly? So let's just talk about me for a minute. Let's just talk about me. And these low-income families that you want to have an opportunity to get out of the failing school, these schools don't provide transportation or lunch or breakfast. So how many truly low-income families can haul somebody in my county? It's a 15-minute drive. There's no school bus. There's no free lunch. There's no breakfast. So if you're really a low-income family, that's not an option for you. So a lot of this argument, and people say, why are you so passionate about this? I got myself in a mess of trouble talking about Mark Robinson, who supports vouchers. And I can't support anybody that supports vouchers. I had a great call with Josh Stein's team yesterday. And it's because of this. And there's a lot of what you're going to hear from a lot of people is people should be able to get out of failing schools and they should be able to go where they want. The question is, do you want your tax dollars to go into a black hole with no accountability? Do you want that? And the other thing is, now there's no income requirement. There's no income requirement. So my family, who has 2 children at private school and 2 in public school, my daughter, we're planning to have her go to a boarding school next year. That's another conversation. Actually, I'll put my subscriber link up in case people need to really deep dive into that. The state has never paid for your tax dollars have never paid for my kids to go to private school. I just want you to know that. I think that would be gross. I mean, that would be like me having a GoFundMe for my own breakfast when I can pay for it, right? Now, the General Assembly last night said, we would like to pay for wealthy people's children to go to private school. So Adrian, next year, drum roll, will get a check for $9,738. So taxpayers of North Carolina, if you are a Republican, I want you to tell me if you're excited about giving me almost $10,000 next year. I mean, I'm excited. I guess it'll help like pay the insurance on my beach house. I don't know. I'm not freaking kidding. I'm serious. $10,000 for Adrian next year. I could buy a Louis Vuitton bag. What else could I do? Would you be able to send it back? I don't know. But it's about like those checks that came during the pandemic. Did anybody not cash theirs? I sure took mine. Suzanne wants to know what fiscally conservative means. Suzanne, for me, I guess what it means is to be very aware of where our tax dollars are going. So every time I drive by a construction project on the highway, you always see one person working and three people standing. And I've never called, but I always want to say, like, how much are we paying for this? Like, why are construction men, why are there always three people watching and one working? What's the benefit for private schools? Well, what the research says is it takes a private school that is maybe struggling, maybe not, and it is a tremendous financial windfall for them. Now, in Raleigh, it might not matter as much in big cities because you have schools, St. David's, St. Timothy's, Ravenscroft, Carey Academy that cost, $20,000 to $30,000. Where we live in our district, first district, northeastern North Carolina, we have a lot of schools that cost between $5,000 and $8,000. So suddenly, and the voucher amount has increased now for low-income families. So that $9,378, that is what I would get. So that is for the wealthiest group, which I'm going to put myself in that. And so it's going to increase. So you're going to see private schools probably, if they're smart, raise their tuition to the amount of the voucher, right? Because if they're charging $4,800 now and the voucher is going to pay $7,400, if I were a business person and I owned a private school, I would change the tuition to $7,400, right? I mean, this is sort of awesome. And what do you have to do to get that money if you're a private school? Nothing. You don't need to be accredited. You don't need to have curriculum. You don't need to have licensed teachers. You don't even have to have required attendance. So you could be like, the School of No Autism Allowed is open one day a year, actually maybe like an hour. I made you coffee. I'm doing a video. I'm staying at my friend's house. Senator Gladys Robinson said this yesterday. Let me be clear. We're using public taxpayer money to subsidize private schools for wealthy people. And that's not because they asked for it. It's simply because you want to give it to them. And there you go. And there you go. Tracy said, I keep screaming about raised tuition. You're going to see it happen. And in my district, you're seeing we're about to spend, $80 million on a public school, a high school. It has been so hard to make sure we have that money. But here's $500 million just falling like manna from heaven. You need to speak to your state legislature. I have. I don't know what else I can do. I would encourage people to talk to their politicians in their area and ask them, why are we giving the debutante almost $10,000 a year? Whose idea was this? And there are a lot of people that say, and I think this is not the argument I would make, even though it affects me. There are a lot of people that say the vouchers aren't fair because children with disabilities don't have a choice of where to go. Again, I was raised, life's not fair. Like, I'm not against the voucher because I have a little person with disabilities who doesn't have any other option. That's not why, I mean, you know, life's not fair. Amos doesn't get to play on the football team, but that doesn't mean I don't think there should be a football team. Amos can't, there's a lot of things that Amos can't do or be involved in, but I want them for other children, right? So the fact that he can't take advantage of it is not great for me. I do think you have to think about when you lose it's going to be tens of thousands of children that are going to move out of public schools, take the money with them, and you have to think about who's left. The kids with disabilities are left. The kids that are gay are left. The kids whose parents maybe aren't organized and take the time to fill out all the stuff. The kids that don't have transportation, and the kids that rely on school for meals. So that's it. That's it. And then the teachers. I mean, I'm on the school improvement team at my children's middle school, my daughter's middle school. And they are struggling so much. And I'm on PTA, and we wrote a check last year for bleach or some cleaning supplies. So we are so poor. Right now, I'm selling wrapping paper. I mean, I'm selling wrapping paper. And you know why? So that kids in my county can just go on a field trip. There are kids that have never crossed the county line. 70% of my kids have never seen the ocean. We live an hour from the beach. An hour from the beach. So you think about what public schools are going to look like. And state constitution says you have to provide a sound and basic education. What's the argument for vouchers? Well, I would say the argument is, let's just call it what it is a tax deduction, or not a tax deduction, a tax credit. Like if you said to me, boy, I want to give you a tax credit for private schools, just call it what it is. That's what it is. That's what it is. Let me be clear. We're using public taxpayer money to subsidize private schools for wealthy people. And that's not because they asked for it. It's simply because you wanted to give it to them. Gladys Robinson said that yesterday. So anyway, thanks y'all for the $9,738 to all the politicians yesterday that donated or that voted on that. You'll be glad to know that the debutante will not be taking your money, and I will be over here trying to sell wrapping paper. $4 of wrapping paper, get $1 benefit. That is not true. Charleston Wrap, we get 50%. This is how rumors get started.
I want them.
Thanks, Sean.